Columbus Day 2021, heading to 6911 Roosevelt Avenue. 6911 Roosevelt Avenue, former site of Parliament Auto Sales, owned by Joseph Joe Bikini Brocchini, where between May 18th and May 20th, 1976, Roy DeMeo and crew entered the establishment and assassinated Joseph Brocchini. Now, I say between May 18th and 20th because in Murder Machine it says the 20th. A newspaper article said 18. Someone also said the 19th. So we'll just keep it between those two dates there. (6911) Roosevelt Avenue. So in 1976, Roy gets into an argument with Joseph Joe Bikini. And man, it's so noisy here. So Roy ends up with a black eye. Now he can't do anything about it because Joe Bikini's a made man. So he goes to Nino. He goes to Nino's house over there, the bunker, and he explains what happened. And DeMeo says, you know, that's the last thing that guy's ever going to do. And he realizes that he'll never get permission for that because he's a made man. But Nino says, make it look like an accident. And that's what they do. Now, it doesn't say what the fight was over, but let's look at a couple of facts. Joe Bikini had a lot of interest in Times Square. He had interest in some shops. He had interest in some book distributing. Now, around that time in 76, if you look at my video, Sex, Smut, and the Mob at the Crossroads of the World, Part 1, you know that around that time, Roy was getting heavy into the Times Square porn rackets. So I could only assume, I've never seen it written anywhere, but I could only assume that this incident where Roy ends up with a black eye was because of an argument that was possibly over some of the interest in Times Square. Maybe Joe Bikini didn't like Roy's presence there, so I don't know, but that seems logical to me. So on that day, either May 18th, 19th, or 20th of 76, the Gemini twins, Center, Testa, Harvey Chris Rosenberg, Roy DeMeo, and Henry Borelli, they arrive here. They tie up all the workers, and that's when Henry and Roy make their way in. And they assassinate Joseph Joe Bikini Brocchini inside 6911 Roosevelt Avenue, Parliament Auto Sales. Now, it might have been bigger back then if it was auto sales. It might have taken up this whole corner, maybe a couple of these storefronts, but it was right here, 6911. And, you know, nobody knew at the time. If you look at the articles, you know, they just assumed, yeah, it's an underworld hit. You know, this guy was a mobster. Didn't come out till, you know, the trials when Montilio went witness and told of the events that transpired here and who was behind it, which was Roy and crew. They came here to Queens and did the job. Killed a made man, an associate, Roy DeMeo at the time. He was made the following year, I believe, in 77. But at the time, he was just an associate. But Nino gave him permission. And like the crazy motherfuckers that they were. And about a year later, almost a year to the date, May 13th, 77, they'd come back to Woodside. Same crew, but this time accompanied with Danny Grillo as well. They would take out Mickey Spillane, not too far from where we are now. So They didn't do much work in Queens as far as hits go. Those are two that stick out in my mind. If there's more I forgot, or let me know. Now, according to Dominic, it was Henry and Roy that went back there and did the shooting. And this was what Roy apparently said to Nino. He said that Henry, he was ice cold. He never flinched. He's a natural. He's like Joe DiMaggio. Now, Henry wasn't much for the, train. Now, Henry wasn't known much for the dismembering. If you look into the crew, if you read a lot about it, it kind of was something that he wasn't into, really made him sick, but certainly knew how to use a gun. That was his reputation, for sure. 6911 Roosevelt Avenue, the former site of Parliament Auto Sales, owned by Joseph Joe Brocchini. Joseph Joe Bikini Brocchini is quite the tongue twister to say. So, I'm going to pepper in, some of these short videos, because the long videos I do, they're like 30, 40 minutes, and that's my goal, to make them long. But the thing is, they take time. So I got to pepper in these little quick jobs, in between. And this one came to mind. It's Columbus Day. Had some time off. Being that it's Columbus Day, we'll connect this story a little bit, a little tiny connection here. So, on June 28th, 71, when Joe Colombo was shot in Columbus Circle, he's shot by Jerome Johnson. Now, when they raid Johnson's last known residence, which was at 174 Elizabeth Street downtown, they find blank checks from a company called Bark Book Distributors. Now, Bark Book Distributors was a company which was partially owned by Joe Bikini. Now, it came out that he had those checks because I guess a former female employee of Bark Books had stolen them and had given them to Johnson. But that's just a little Columbus connection, a little tiny one here that I thought was interesting. If you look into Jerome Johnson, he hung out a lot around the village in that area that time, and he was an associate. He had connections to, some of the industry that was going on there, a lot of the gay nightclubs, and a lot of Gambino and Genovese owned stuff. So he was like a low-level associate, I guess you could say. Bark Book Distributors, blank checks found in Jerome Johnson's apartment at 174th Elizabeth Street. A little interesting connection. So, just thought I wanted to share that story today. Take you back over here to Woodside. I also did another Woodside thing where, I went to the site where Mickey Spillane was hit by the DeMeo crew as well. I love these old school looking storefronts. This is the 7 train for anyone wondering. That's the BQE right there. All right, well, I think I covered everything. Just another location and another insight into the brutal nature of the DeMeo crew. No rules with those guys. No rules. Last look, 6911 Roosevelt. All right, I hope you enjoyed this little trip. I'm working on some stuff. Like I said, they take a little bit because my goal is to make these videos. I don't know if you want to call them documentaries or whatever it is. My goal is to make them, like 35, 40-minute jobs, I know, like everyone says, attention spans are at an all-time low, but whatever. I mean, that has nothing to do with me. I'm making them that long because I want to make them that long, and I want to get as much information And it just, you know, makes me feel better if they're long, because it makes me feel like I accomplished something. And before I go, I just want to say one more thing. I know I've done a lot of mafia stuff on my channel. I'll continue to do that. But it's also important for me to cover other crime stories, you know, crime stories in New York City that have been forgotten, or low-key ones from decades ago, or, you know, things that I think no one talks about, like the Wendy's massacre video I just did. I'll be doing more stuff like that also. That video is in 70-something thousand views, and that's crazy. But, you know, it's sparking a lot of memories for people that have forgotten about it. And they're talking about it, and they're telling, like, where they were when they heard about it. It was really shocking. So, you know, some people were mad in the beginning, but, you know, most of it has been positive. And it's definitely brought a lot of conversation to the channel and to the comment thread for that video. So there'll be more of those forgotten stories and low-key things also, all right? So everybody, you have a great Columbus Day, great week coming up. I'm going to sign off now.